Hello, everyone. Welcome to Falcons UK. This is our first show in a couple of weeks. We have a break going on, but we are back with a bit of a bang. So this week we are joined by Caitlin Aoki, who is, well, actually, I'm not even going to explain who Caitlin is. Caitlin, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? That'll probably go down better.
Definitely. Well, I am an NFL certified agent. This is my second full year being certified as an agent. I've been in the agency business for about 6 years now. Prior to that, I was working in college football, working in recruiting and operations. So been in the football business per se for about 12 years now. I hate to age myself like that, but seen a lot of different things, done a lot of different things, and it's been a great experience.
That's amazing. Where did all that start then? Like you said, you worked in college football prior to that. Was that always your career choice, or did you fall into it?
Kind of fell into it, honestly. I knew, like a lot of people, I wanted to work in sports, but didn't exactly know what that meant. So, my freshman year of college, I started working with the athletic department at my school. And at that time, I thought I wanted to be in marketing and sponsorships. And so I was working with the marketing, arm of the athletic department. Yeah. And kind of figured out that wasn't exactly my cup of tea, wasn't exactly what I wanted to do full time. And so just kind of started exploring different options, and then fell into football just by chance. And, previously had no interest whatsoever in working in football, but, ended up loving what I was doing and kind of just kept going with it.
It definitely worked out for the best, didn't it?
For sure.
Awesome. Go on, Carl, I'll let you jump in.
So we got mentioned a couple of your clients that have Zeke Elliott, Edwards Hilaire.
Edwards, yeah.
Pronunciation's terrible.
You can just call him Clyde.
These names. But yeah, how did they come across, or like what are they sort of as people? Because you've met them as well. So we see them on the football pitch, and you see a bit behind, but as players, like, what's the relationship between them?
At the end of the day, they're just people. And, obviously it's different when you see them on TV and, they're in their uniform, got their helmet on, they're in game mode, whatever, and so you think, okay, this is a superhero. This is, this celebrity. But then when you're with them in person and just having a one-on-one conversation, it's just like a conversation that we'd be having right now. Just normal people. They go through the same, ups and downs of life that we all go through. And, that's kind of the cool thing, is you see them on TV, but they're just a normal person too.
I think that's a part that the fans miss sometimes, even though you get a little snapshot of them in interviews and things like that. Even interviews are pretty formulated a lot of the time, as in they've been told what they can and can't say, and or it's after a game and they don't want to say too much because it's through emotion and stuff like that. So
exactly, it's like you never really get to see their real personalities and what's important to them and what they care about. So
yeah, absolutely. Obviously you've got a ton of other clients. We've only mentioned a few. And just with us moving towards the draft, have you got people lined up that you're looking to take into the NFL this year? I mean, we've got a few names.
We've got a few of them. So yeah, as an agency, Alliance Sports, we're representing 5 guys that are, in the draft this year. And so, we've got Jamar Chase out of LSU, Tyler Shelvin out of LSU, Brennan Eagles out of University of Texas, Brad Stewart out of Florida, and Ramondre Stevenson, who played at Oklahoma. So, got a decent little class of guys, and, interested to see where they're going to go here. And we're about 2 weeks away from the draft. So
it is. Yeah. Well, if you fancy sending anyone towards Atlanta, then that'll be appreciated. We need all the help we can get.
If all five of them ended up in Atlanta, I'd be very happy.
Amazing. Definitely something we're after. We've got no cap space, so the draft is our only hope at the moment.
I know. Man, tough situation for you guys this offseason, especially.
It definitely is. So I think Chase is obviously, he's been mentioned like hell of a lot. Obviously one of the top wide receivers that would be what probably could be drafted. I don't know where. I think he could go top 10. I don't know what your comments would be on that. But I think,
or if you're allowed to comment.
I know, yeah. But I think there's a lot of teams that would be taking wide receivers in the top 10 or top 15, even though it's a quarterback sort of heavy thing. But what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. He's he's definitely, in my opinion, the best receiver in the draft. There's a lot of people with different opinions out there, and that's fine. But that's kind of what makes it interesting. But he's definitely in a fortunate position where he won't have to wait too long for his name to be called on Thursday evening. And it's just a matter of who's going to be the one to pull the trigger first. Like you said, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks that sounds, all the experts and whatever saying that they're going to go off the board early, and that's to be expected. Quarterbacks are always a hot commodity, but I don't think Jamar is going to have to wait too much longer after that.
I would not think so at all. I mean, wide receiver is probably the only position Falcons are actually all right at, weirdly enough. Anyway, so.
I know, right? I'm like, man, unless something crazy happens here in the next couple of weeks, I think you guys are in a good spot right now.
Yeah, I'd hope so, definitely. In terms of getting clients and stuff, is that all done through the agency that you work for, or are you assigned clients, or I don't know? You know what I'm trying to say.
No, it's kind of a hit or miss. The way that we recruit, so we're not one of the really big agencies that has hundreds of clients. We think we've got about 15 guys on rosters right now. Yeah. And that's kind of the way we try and keep it as small and personal as possible, so we can have the one-on-one relationships. And so that's how we recruit and sign new clients as well. It's all relationship based. And so, we're never going to sit here and say, okay, Danny, you're our new client. This is the one person from our agency you have to talk to. We're going to let you decide. You're going to meet everyone from our agency and figure out, okay, who do I have the best relationship with, and who do I feel the most comfortable with, and just go that way. We're not going to force anything upon our guys. Just let them kind of dictate how things go.
That's nice to hear, though, because there's so many monopolies of companies now where, even though to us the famous and sports stars, you wouldn't want them to just become a number across the agency. So like you said, when it's that personal, I'm sure it means that your work is so much easier for them and for you as well. I mean, they can openly talk to you about what they're actually wanting to achieve in the contracts and in terms of the playing careers and things like that. Whereas if they feel a little bit pushed to one side as a number, I don't think you'll get that kind of interaction.
Exactly. When you have that close relationship, you can figure out, like I said before, what's important to them, not just in terms of playing, but what do they want to do off the field? What's important from a family perspective. And, if, like you said, if you're just a number, if you're just one of many, it's a little bit more difficult to kind of cultivate those relationships and, figure out what's next after football's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it one that do the players sort of contact you, or is it because obviously you say you'd start in college, so I'm going to ask you if you have any eyes on for next year's obviously draft class, etc. But do they contact you, or is it sort of both ways?
It goes both ways. A lot of times it's especially for some of the higher prospects, the higher rated prospects. Everyone obviously wants to sign them, and everyone would love to sign them. And so it's not really different for them from their high school to college recruiting process too. Everyone wants to be on board with them. But sometimes it'll be us reaching out to them, or it may be them reaching out to us. If they know, if they played with someone in school who's one of our clients, and we can kind of build that, generic relationship that way too. That helps. It definitely goes both ways.
A lot more authentic that way, instead of dead forced and just everything generic emails and generic contact everywhere.
Exactly. that cold sales pitch.
Yeah, literally. Cold calling players instead.
So go on.
That's right.
So like I just mentioned then, obviously this year's college year coming up. Do you have any under your regime basically, or do you would you wait until the season started and then see who comes, etc.?
So we definitely have some that we're targeting, and don't want to reveal too much.
No.
It's a competitive business, obviously.
Yeah.
But we definitely have some from last season, the seasons before, that we've kept our eye on, and have stayed in contact with. But every year someone's going to pop up and have a great year, and so it's just staying on top of what's going on in college football and paying attention. And just trying to get your foot in the door wherever you can.
Yeah. With your role being an agent then, in terms of contract negotiations and things like that, I presume you discuss it directly with a player first before approaching any team and then having that side out with them. Is that not a dead intense environment to work in? Because surely there's quite a lot of pressure on something like that, because you're doing it for yourself and your agency, but of course you've got someone's like entire livelihood on the line in terms of how much they earn, where they live, and everything like that.
Yeah, and it depends on the situation too. Obviously, if you're a guy who's going into free agency and you get the benefit of picking the team you're going to, it's a little bit less stressful in that regard, because you can kind of take your time and be patient with it. But if you're a guy who you just got released from a team, or they decided not to renew your contract, and so you might start feeling a little bit more nervous about, okay, hey, where am I going? Where am I going to be playing this year? And so, it depends on the situation, definitely. But yeah, at the end of the day, like you said, it's these guys' lives, it's these guys' careers. So, there's definitely some responsibility, I guess that's the word you want to use for it. But that's part of the relationship too, is they put their trust in us to take care of them and make sure we don't screw things up too bad.
Yeah.
One of the questions I had is about the players that are coming into this year's draft. Do they, obviously you won't be able to mention where or whatever, but do they speak to you about where they'd prefer to go, or a lot of them just like, I'm free to, if any 32 teams? I know when you get chose, there's 99.9% you stay with that team, but do they have like conversations with you like, oh, I'd like to go here, I'd like to go there, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's natural, especially guys that have grown up watching the game and being fans of the game. There's always, a couple teams that you've always been a fan of, or, whether it's a city that you'd love to live in, or maybe a city you're not so sure you'd like to be in. There's always those situations. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of control that we have over, where these guys go, and, they understand that. But yeah, naturally, there's going to be some, oh man, I would love if I went and played for such and such.
Atlanta.
Exactly. That's the first one everyone always names.
Love it. I was just going to move on. I've lost where I'm up to entirely, but we'll wing it anyway. So in terms of the actual players outside of football itself, do you still deal with them in terms of that? I know you said briefly in regards to like where they live and things, but when they get involved in community projects and things like that and charity organizations, is that something you lot delve into, or is that more of a personal sort of basis?
Yep, it's definitely something we help with. And so, like I said, we're not going to force anything on anything, keep it authentic. But, 99% of the guys love to do some sort of outreach in some way. And so there's some initiative or endeavor that's going to be important to them, something, whether it hits home from cancer perspective, medical perspective, different organizations maybe they were a part of as a kid. And so, we let them figure out what they want to be involved in, and figure out, what's the best way to get involved with that. And so, maybe it's hosting youth camps, or, what did we do? We did the telethon, just different fundraisers, things like that. So what, kind of whatever they want to be involved in, we'll help out in.
That's awesome. I mean, I suppose, like you said, it is their own route, isn't it? Something always triggers you to want to, like, whether it's a past experience or whether it's just something that you've been interested in. I suppose there's plenty of options for them all. But that's, as fans, obviously, that's not what we all like to see, that they're giving back, because I know they've worked hard to get into those positions and they absolutely deserve it. But it's so nice to see them giving back to the communities, either whether it's where they're from or where they're living and playing for or anything like that, just because it makes them more human, like you said earlier. Like, instead of making them superhero, it makes you think, oh, actually, they do care. They're not just on the screen for us. So
exactly. It's like, okay, hey, they've been through some of the same experiences I've been through. And so we can relate a little bit. Yeah, like you said, it humanizes them for sure.
Absolutely.
I've got a question about, obviously, America's absolutely massive compared to England over here. So obviously you have clients, must be spotted around. So a lot of traveling must go on. So is it like traveling every week, or is it just like whenever you need to go to that, your client, etc.?
kind of whenever we need, but yeah, it's definitely very frequent. And I live in Los Angeles, and unfortunately, none of my clients right now play for a Los Angeles team. So that would just be way too convenient. So there's definitely a lot of frequent flyer miles that are getting racked up. But it's a fun experience. That's one thing I love about the job is no 2 days are the same. Get to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different areas, and it's fun. It's fun for me.
Yeah. I mean, the traveling to us is such a bizarre concept for it, because the top of our country to the bottom of ours is like 5 hours, maybe, if you're pushing it. You're still in the same state over there. So that would not
I know.
be
It's like California, you could be driving 10 hours and still be in the same state.
We'd be in the middle of the sea by then. We'd have no chance at all. No chance. In terms of the players that you've got on your roster at the moment in time, do you? This is weird, but do you ever have a preference where they go for their sake, or are you just like whatever they fancy? Because go on. I was going.
No, it's whatever works for them. That's kind of how we do everything.
I was just thinking, because you said that you weren't initially going to work in football as such, so. Did you have an interest in football before, or is it just developed through career as opposed to actually having an interest in the sport first?
I mean, I would consider myself a casual fan growing up. If a game was on TV, I'd watch it. I grew up in Seattle, and at the time I was growing up, the Seahawks weren't great, and so football wasn't a huge thing in Seattle then. We were more of a baseball and a basketball city. Those are really the sports I grew up watching. But just my experience working in the business of football and seeing everything that went into, getting the team organized and keeping the team together and keeping it running, all game day aside and everything. That was what really interested me and what kept me involved in it, is being involved in the behind the scenes stuff that people really don't see.
The stuff that we want to know a lot about, but don't have the opportunity.
Exactly.
There's one scenario that would probably be even more of a pain in the ass. I don't think it'll ever happen, or it could do. If there's ever a London franchise and you have someone over here, you could be traveling. Could be one way. You could be traveling quite a while, but then you get the benefits of traveling to London as well. So if it ever happened,
you know what? And I think it's not far off, to be honest. I think the NFL as a league. Obviously, I can't speak on their behalf, but I think they. With all the international games and the games they've played in London and, whatnot, that I think it's something that obviously interests them. And I think there's a huge market for it. And, so if all it is they're just going to keep playing more games overseas every year and add a couple more games each season, that's one way to get to it. But, I think there's definitely some people that have looked into the possibility of starting a franchise over there.
It's such a strange concept for us, because I mean the majority of people that already support football and watch football and support a team wouldn't change the team even if somebody like a team moved over. We couldn't just go, no, I don't like Falcons anymore, and move over to whoever came over here. So it'd be for new fans, like primarily. But if we get to watch more football, I'll take that. But at the same time, I'm very conscious of not stealing your sport, so I don't want.
I know, right? American football. It can't just be football. It's American football.
Exactly. But I think that's the thing, because obviously a lot of fans over here would really love it, but we wouldn't want to take too many games away from like you over there, because even with the Falcons coming over for one game this year, which is awesome for us, there's so much backlash in terms of the home fans, because it was supposed to be a home game. Like, so when we buy a season ticket, we're one game down this year. And it's like, I know, I'm sorry, but we really want to watch them.
It's like, hey, we want to watch it too. No, and it's a rough, I don't want to say it's rough, but it's a tough week for the guys traveling too. They've got to travel overseas, and if their family's going to come, the family has to come too. And, I don't know. Especially this year, I don't know what's going to happen with COVID and everything going on with that, and how that's going to affect things. So it's a different week for them for sure. It changes the pace up, but it keeps them on their toes.
It does indeed, and it saves us spending thousands to get over, because we're in the process of saving up and trying to structure something at the minute. But the effort that it's going to take to like get a nice area reasonably close to the stadium, so we're not traveling like hours and hours and hours every single day and things like that. But I mean, we're looking forward to it, but it won't be cheap.
For sure.
Sorry, I was just reading a comment in the comments then saying we've just released Ito Smith. So I mean, off topic completely, but just in case anyone is watching live.
That's surprising.
When it comes to draft night, do you attend, or are you just watching at home with 10 different phones from all your different clients? Like where?
Yeah. So last year, since they didn't have the draft in person, it was, I was sitting in my living room. I had about 3 different screens going and all my phones and different devices. So it was a little bit stressful last year. Fortunately, they were able to figure out how to do the draft in person this year. And so, with Jamar being in the position that he's in, we'll be in Cleveland for the draft, and it'll be a fun experience for him and his family. And I'm excited for them. It's been 21 years in the making for him and his family, so it should be fun.
I think the event itself has a lot of prestige about it, and not just the fact that you're signing for a team, but just going to that, and there's such a big reach around the world. Like it's at 1:30 in the morning for us, and I'm getting up to watch it because why wouldn't I? So we're definitely all ready for that. It's just it's a bit of a shame last year that they didn't really have the opportunity to do it in a better way, and I know they couldn't have. There was nothing else they could do, but it's good that it's just the top sort of sought after players this year. Is that basically what they've done? Who they anticipate to go in the earlier rounds, and then some are staying at home still, I think.
Yeah. So it's like, I think in a normal year, they invite, anywhere from like 35 to 40 guys. I don't know how many end up attending each year. It's just personal preference. But I think they cut that number in half this year. So they didn't invite quite as many as they usually do. Yeah. To kind of keep the numbers down and controlled, which is understandable. But, it's still, it's a cool experience for the guys. It's a once in a lifetime experience. So, like I said, I'm happy the guys that got the invitation this year and them and their families that get to enjoy it. They've earned that. So it's a cool thing.
A really luxury event to go and sit into as well and just be there for it all.
Exactly.
That's one thing they missed last year, didn't they? Obviously, when you sat at home, it's still great because you got all your family around you. But if you are like a top prospect, expecting to go in the first round, it's like that extra buzz because you're there, you're with the other players, etc. And then you get your name called, and it's just like the excitement must be just overwhelming for the players, like it will be this year. But such a class time.
It's a production, it's their, they get to be on the red carpet and, like you said, walk across their stage and get their jersey. It's something that, unfortunately those guys will never get to experience. And, it's unfortunate that it worked out that way for them.
Yeah. When somebody does get signed up, do you celebrate as much as they celebrate? Because sometimes those players just lose their minds. Obviously, right, but
I mean, sometimes we might celebrate even more than the guys, depending on who they are and how they celebrate. But yeah, it's fun for everyone, especially this year. It's been a long process, and it'll be nice when draft day comes, and all those months of working, and it paid off.
Pays off, yeah, absolutely.
The day after for you must be absolutely mental. Like the day obviously calls, but the day after you must be like, right, now I've got to do it. Now I've got to do work.
I know, right now, back to work. It never ends. But that's a good problem to have.
Definitely.
With the when you get drafted, with the contracts being a little bit more structured and set, is your role there just as heavy as when a normal player moves team, or is it a little bit less so because everything's a little bit more like routine?
A little bit less, like you said, the numbers really don't fluctuate. Everything's structured, and so really it's not a whole lot of negotiations that we can do, just from a language standpoint, timing of payments of signing bonus, things like that. So it's not as much fun, and there's not as many games that can be played with it, but that's all right. We'll make up for it a few years down the road.
Out of curiosity, with you going into that industry, did you do any specific training about contract negotiations and stuff? As in like, or was that just developed over time, or have you literally done psychology where you get in people's minds and confuse them so they don't have a clue what's going on?
Just kind of developed over time. So, I did, when I was in school, I got, my business marketing degree. I got a master's business administration. And so, there's only so much you can learn from a classroom and from a textbook, but in all reality, the real learning and education came from just being around it and listening into conversations from, other negotiations, other contract negotiations. So that's where, for me, the biggest learning experience was. And that's,
I suppose it's the best way around it, because you've got all of the people around you as well in the same process, and they've been in your shoes, and you're just replicating what they do and then making it better, basically, because you're always an improved version of whoever's above you at some point. So
exactly. It's like everyone's got their own. Everyone's got their own tactics and how they like to approach things, and so it keeps it interesting.
Absolutely. Go on, Cal. You look like you were going to go there.
Yeah, one question. Say, obviously, the bad time when, say, a player gets released and he's obviously under you. How does that work out with teams? Do they come to you or do they come to the player, etc.? How does that work out?
So they typically come to the agent first. If they see a player's available, they'll reach out and say, hey, we're interested in him. Either we want to sign him, no questions asked, or hey, we want to bring him in for a tryout, for a visit. So it kind of depends on the stage of their career, the stage of the season, and what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have any other guys coming onto the books, please do send them our way for very, very cheap. Literally nothing at all. I mean, we don't want to bombard you more than we already have, really, because we've absolutely slammed loads of questions more than we thought. It turned into a bit of a just scatter everything that we can think of. Mainly because this is the first one, so we've had plenty of players on in the past and people from the media and stuff, but this is just a completely different approach for us to hear from. But it's good to hear from that side of the sport, really, because as you said earlier, it's not something that anybody really has the opportunity to get involved in unless you're literally working in it. They don't, obviously rightly so, but you don't really have to display much. Nothing gets publicized like that. All we say is made up figures that half the time I'm convinced in the media aren't the real figures that are actually being discussed and stuff like that. Just ballpark.
For sure.
But I mean, Cal, unless you've got anything else, I don't want to keep Caitlin for too long tonight. It's the middle of the day. Well, wait, what time is it where you are?
It's about 11 o'clock here.
Oh, yeah, so it's very early for you. I mean, it's 7 p.m. for us, so I'm all out of sync now.
Tea time over here. We'll do one or two questions just because it is, obviously, we are Falcons fans, so I don't want to bore you too much with the Falcons thing. But so going into the draft on next year, do you think we could, or what's your opinion on the 4th pick we have, and what we could do next year?
Crumble.
Yeah. Well, I would love if y'all needed a receiver and you could take Jamar Chase at 4 this year. But that's out of my control. if you guys have any strings to pull, go ahead, do that.
I mean, we have a few contacts, but I don't think we're quite that powerful just yet. Spoke to the marketing team, but I don't think they do much contract negotiation. So
I know. No, I don't know. I've heard a lot of different theories. Maybe they take another quarterback to develop as the next franchise quarterback. Maybe they take a tight end there. You can never go wrong with offensive linemen, or maybe they trade the pick and get another couple picks later in the draft. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with that. I'm just as intrigued to see as you guys are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Cal's opinion's changed in the last week, but I'm team trade back because we've got so many holes we need to plug that I just want all the draft players that we can get at the moment in time.
Understand.
Maybe we can pick one or two of your clients up in the.
Hey, I would be very, like I said, I'd be very happy with that.
If you just send the names over, we can send them on. I'm sure the team will listen to us.
I'll give you all our names and just say, hey, just take as many of these guys as you can. Appreciate it.
We'll get all of our followers on Twitter to just put the comments under every Falcons post, and then boom, before you know it.
Something will click, something will happen.
We have to expect a small part of the profits, so that's the only thing we're going to demand.
We'll get you guys some signed jerseys, merchandise.
Oh, I'm down for that.
All over it.
Perfect. But no, Caitlin, thank you very much for coming on. I mean, we won't ask too much about the Falcons. Obviously, it's not necessarily your forte, but we have to ask everyone that comes on because it's principle, really.
For sure. No.
But no, it's been awesome talking to you and getting into that side of the sport a little bit. And hopefully your clients work out for you in this year's draft, and next year we'll see them tearing the league up unless playing against the Falcons, in which case I hope it's a terrible game or don't play at all. But
you can root for them every game except when they're playing against the Falcons.
Exactly. And when they play against our rivals, then we're their best fans as well, so it's fine.
I love it.
That's awesome. But thank you everyone for watching live. Thank you for your comments and stuff. They are coming in. We do see them and everything, but I've only got so many hands. And yeah, so Caitlin, good luck with the draft and everything like that. Alex, thank you for sorting us out with Caitlin. We did try to approach a few people and just see where we can get to, and this has been a perfect show for it, really. It's brand new stuff for us, and brand new stuff for everyone watching, because majority of our fans are from the UK and we don't have a clue about stuff like this just yet. So it's been perfect. But yeah, thank you for everyone watching live. Caitlin, I'll cut this off in a second, just say bye to you off camera so we don't keep everyone on. But yeah, shameless plug. We've got merch, we've all got merch and stuff now. So please go and buy that if you like it. And yeah, we'll leave you to it. And we will be back next week with 3 different guests all on one show. So see you soon. See you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys.